Well, yesterday I talked about working and long hours, working long hours, and really killing yourself doing that. Give me just 1 minute. I meant to turn this off. Sorry about that. But I've got one corgi laying here, and I got one more right here. So if you see me reaching over somewhere and doing something, it's because I got petting on them. But really, today is the perfect example of why I don't work an insane amount of hours anymore. And this happened today, so it's kind of the reason why I'm talking about it right now. I get home, it's about 5:30 when I get home. So my son's awake. I cook dinner, we eat, and then I play with him for a little while. And about 7:30, he's really winding down. He's pretty much asleep. I mean, he's kind of like, and between 7:30 and 8, he's out. So that means from Monday to Friday, I have about 2 hours to be able to spend with my son. And if I stay at work an hour longer or 2 hours longer, I get to see very, very little of him. And I don't want to cut any more of that time out. So so I'm looking at it this way. For me, I have to look at what's important to me. Is spending time with my son, doing things like that, more important than my job? The answer to that is yes. Now, other people may view things differently. Maybe what's important to them is to provide for their family, to ensure everything is taken care of and they get the things they want, not just what they need. And if that's what you're doing, great. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just for me, I work a salary position. If I work 8 hours or if I work 14 hours, I'll work the same amount. I mean, I make the same amount. It's not any different. So it's like, okay, here's this much money, and you need to work at least 40 hours. Okay. And that's the way I factor in a job. When I go to a job interview, and because that's one of the ways you don't really ask, well, how many hours are you expecting somebody to work? You can't ask that because you're not going to get a straight answer. If you ask, okay, what's a typical week like here? And sometimes they'll tell you about that. And so if it's a good place, they'll actually tell you, oh, we have occasional overtime, or we expect. Dog was playing with my lens cap. Or sometimes they'll say, well, we expect a certain amount of hours. I went to job interviews, and that's been said. That's great when people are upfront with that. But when you talk to people, or you're walking through, like when you go into a company, and when you're walking through it, sometimes you don't get to walk through much of the other employees to see them. But when you do, pay attention to their body language. Are people, do they seem happy? Do they seem depressed? I mean, if you can, talk to somebody. Like sometimes they'll, when you are waiting for dinner, don't show up like extremely early, but sometimes somebody will be late and somebody will be there, they'll talk to you. And ask them questions. I mean, don't ask, oh, is this a good place to work? I mean, they're not going to give you a straight answer. I mean, if they say no, run. Maybe they have a friend interviewing for the job. If they say, oh yeah, it's a great place, maybe they're afraid that you're actually not really interviewing, that you're trying to catch them in something. So yeah, but just ask them questions like, oh yeah, blah blah. What do you do? Yeah, do you know? And just kind of general info about the company. And I've done that and found out that, oh yeah, they expect people to work a certain amount of time. Ask about if they follow the agile code, like if they're a developer. If they do follow the agile development life cycle, and if they say, well, we use an agile-esque, they don't use agile. I've, I've, I've heard that term too many times. If you're not a developer, the agile methodology is just, you basically you're supposed to be doing things very agile. So if you can move between, things can move between stages. You don't have to stop. It's, I'm not really sure how to explain it quickly. If you want to learn about the agile methodology, just Google it and you'll find out more information about it than you ever wanted to know. So yeah, just when they do during an interview, when they ask you, do you have any questions? Ask questions. I mean, someone, I think it's my wife, asked during an interview, asked about what typical work week, or no, that was the question, is like, do you have a set time? Like, can you come in later in the day and leave later, or is there a certain set time for you to come in and leave? And the person said, well, you can work your 60 hours anytime you want. And he kind of laughed. But the problem is when things like that happen in interviews that I'm in, those are negatives. That's not a joke. That's something that, yeah, that person probably does expect you to be working 60 hours a week. And before I had Adrian, oh, Thor sneezed. If I was going to work that position, the pay I required for that position just went up drastically. I mean, I'm not going to work for a company that says, well, we want you to work 60 hours a week, but we only want to pay you for 40, is basically what a lot of companies do. And if you want me to work 60 hours a week, you're going to pay me I'm going to adjust my salary to where I'm going to make what I would make if I worked 60 hours a week. So, yeah, it's, but sorry, that's gone on the interviews. That's not really what I want to talk about. I've been talking for way too long about that. But, like I was saying, I don't work these long hours. My dog really needs to be brushed, and she just will not let me. I'm sitting here petting her, and I'm like, hair is coming off. But, as you can see, Thor's right there now. But when you start a position, and if you are willing to work those long hours like that, there's nothing wrong with that. But understand that when you do work these long hours, you are making a decision in other regards to your life. So it's really a thing. Really think about that. What are you giving up? Is what you're giving up the rest of the part of your life worth working those hours? So, it's really the only thing I can say. I mean, like when I was single, I worked every holiday. I remember I worked Christmas Eve, but I worked third shift, so I started at 9 p.m. and I worked till 8 a.m. Like I worked 4 10-hour shifts, and so I worked weirdest time of the year. It's because nobody wanted to work third shift, and nobody wanted to work holidays. So if you were on third shift and a holiday was there, even like the 2 or 3 people that did work third shift, they didn't want to be there. So there were times when working 10-hour shifts, you're not supposed to work more than a certain number in a row. But I actually worked, oh gosh, I can't remember how many. I think it was like 10 or something like that, because nobody else had worked the holidays. And they actually told me, they were like, you can't work this unless, like, they had to get some kind of, I think they had to get special permission, or I had to sign something or something other, because I had worked so many of them and I worked so long. So basically, it was New Year's Eve. No, it was, yes, Christmas Eve, Christmas, New Year's, New Year's Eve. I think I worked like, with only 1 or 2 days off between all that, and they they actually were like, we have to have somebody else, but nobody else did it. There were people that actually took off like that last 2 weeks of December, and like I think it was last week of December and the first week of January. Like, most of the staff weren't even there, and I was the only one willing to work nights, and there were some nights that I was alone, and this is like when I worked on the help desk, and nobody else was there. Like, somebody was supposed to work and they'd call in, be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't make it," and it's like, okay, so I'm here to take. And granted, I mean, I didn't get a single. I think I got a call on Christmas night because somebody, because we weren't supposed to help people with personal computers. And somebody was like, I'm having issues with my computer, I can't get it to turn on. And basically what they were doing is they were trying to get me to help them hook up their personal computer that they had just gotten for Christmas, or they just bought their kid for Christmas or something. And but, sorry, I'm just going into stories about old places I've worked instead of talking about my actual topic. Yeah, I get sidetracked pretty easily. But, yes, when I was single, before I was married, well, actually I think it was just me and my wife were dating at the time, but she worked and I worked, but I worked third shift, and we did so. After, when she got off work, she'd come over, we'd hang out, and about 8:30 she'd go home, I'd go to work, and my dog is looking at me. She wants me to turn out that light. She's like, it's bright. So yeah, sorry. So yeah, that was a good job for somebody that was in that stage, and I never had any issues. And as time went on, and I got married, I moved to days, but I think I worked 14s at that time still yet. So I was off 3 days a week, so we spent a lot of time together. And then we got married, I drastically cut out working holiday. When we got married, I stopped working holidays, which they were like, oh crap! But I had already moved to days, so they had they had to find somebody else. Chloe girl, her nose is stopped up. I can hear her nose whistling. So yeah. Here, let me show you Chloe. Because of these 30 years, my other one, and my son is the reason why I don't work long hours. Because if I did, it's less time I get to spend with them. And I just realized I looked at my viewfinder. I think I've been talking for 15 minutes to say that one sentence. Sorry about that. But hope you had a good day. Mine, pretty good. Trying to get stuff done at work. And got home, cooked this pasta stuff. It's pretty good. And then play with Adrian and the corgis. Can't get much better than that. Talk to you tomorrow.